Live from Fargo and serving you on TV, online, and on the go. This is Valley News Live 10 at 10.
When Jacob Wetterling disappeared, I was a child, and now I'm a mom. So now I can actually relate to Jacob's mom because my son is 11 years old.
27 years later, the abduction and murder of an 11-year-old Minnesota boy has been resolved, and it's causing some in the Valley to be extra cautious when it comes to sex offenders. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. People living in a South Fargo neighborhood are scratching their heads, wondering why they didn't know a sex offender has been living next door to them for over a year.
One woman reached out to us wanting to share what she's learned about low-risk sex offenders, saying parents are left in the dark. Valley News Team's crime and safety reporter Nicole Johnson has more.
A family member had asked me if I knew that there was a registered sex offender living 2 doors down. And I said, no, there's not.
For over a year, this mom of 3 had no idea a man convicted of a sex crime has been living on her block. She didn't want to be identified for fear of what could happen.
Pull that map up and you look and you say, oh, okay, well, there's, my neighborhood's pretty safe. There's no registered sex offenders in my neighborhood. But that's not true.
She didn't know because the state of North Dakota doesn't warn the community about low-risk sex offenders. But after finding him on crimereports.com and looking up his conviction, she feels like someone should have warned them.
It is assumed that their risk has been assessed as so low that such a warning isn't necessary.
There's a lot that goes into classifying sex offenders, according to Dr. Stacy Benson.
It's not about talking to the person and seeing if they've changed and listening to what they tell us. It's about looking at their history and looking at what does the research tell us about somebody with this particular constellation of offenses. What is their likelihood to do something like that again?
Research shows most offenders don't commit another sex crime.
I was upset that we weren't notified to begin with. And then all this Jacob Wetterling stuff getting stirred up again, which is just, it's awful. It's heartbreaking.
The Jacob Wetterling case is tragic, and it's as rare as it is tragic. It is not typical to have an individual have that many victims or to have sexual crimes escalate to that level. And I think that anytime there's, a story that is as emotional as that, and that's that's on the news and that we're reading about and hearing about, we start to think that that is more common than it really is, and we start to get more scared than maybe what we need to.
For this mom, it doesn't matter high or low risk. She doesn't want to be left in the dark.
The public has a right to know, especially parents. We have a right to know.
Nicole Johnson, Valley News Live.
Fargo police have recently told Valley News Live that no sex offender living in Fargo has ever committed another sex crime in the city.
Weapons in our children's schools. We have known for some time schools have cracked down hard whenever there's a situation with nationwide cases, such as a student kicked out for having a butter knife. But now the Minnesota Supreme Court has decided that a zero-tolerance policy for weapons other than firearms needs a second look. In 2014, a girl from southern Minnesota was kicked out for having a knife she said was used to do chores, and she forgot she had it. The court now says districts must determine what a student's intent was in bringing that weapon to school.
When you say weapons, I think guns, I think knives, I think things like that, and I think that there should be no reason for those in schools.
They're needed. Do they work? Yes and no. Kids will be kids, or people will be kids, and they'll do what they're going to do.
Moorhead Schools says they don't have a zero-tolerance policy, instead relying on administrators' discretion. We have linked to the court's opinion on our website. Just click on this story at valleynewslive.com.
Authorities are deciding whether charges will be filed against the man involved in a 6-hour standoff. He hasn't been identified, but we know he's from Ulen, Minnesota. Police say it started with a verbal domestic dispute this morning at a home north of Ulen. The man then went to the Highway 32 bridge and threatened to jump. After 6 hours of talking with the man, he gave up peacefully.
It didn't hurt that we had a downpour of rain, and we worked through that. Right now, he surrendered peacefully, and we're going to get him the help that he needs.
The man was taken to Sanford Medical Center.